Sleepy Hollow Season 4, Episode 9, Child's Play. Really enjoyed this episode. We got a pretty interesting glimpse, or I guess technically this is our third glimpse into the future, and we find our two sort of oracle-based characters who have been getting glimpses of the future. We find out that at some point down this crazy path of Dreyfuss, creating his own future and being the ruler of, I don't know, maybe the world? I mean, at this point it just seemed like the States. So, I don't know. Who knows how much he really has control over. But we get this glimpse of the future in this episode, and Dreyfuss is with Molly. And she's drawn him a picture, and it's like it's his present, and she's thanking him, and they're both happy with each other. And it was a very interesting opening. I was like, wow, how in the world does this play out? So, going through the episode, there's not too much, it's still kind of just these glimpses of like this happens and that happens in the future. But that was a really good one. I like that because it wasn't something I was expecting. It was seemingly, in the same amount of time in that far future. And they're both eating dinner, and I think they're still both in front of the White House. It was just, the same sort of setting, and they had the people playing music. And it was a great way to start the episode, and then it goes into Molly and her actually creating this creature, which at first I thought that was a totally different thing, because I was like, holy crap, she basically summoned this thing out of nothingness. I couldn't wait for the explanation, and then it was actually really simple. It was just that Dreyfuss kind of made sure that she got a hexed book reader, and I was like, oh, okay, that's simpler than I thought. I was like, man, she has some sort of crazy innate abilities and stuff. So much simpler answer by the end, but it was still cool because that whole episode I was like, so she just kind of made this thing out of nothing based off of sheer emotion. That's an actual ability. That's almost like a mutant ability in a sense. And then it goes through and it's like, yeah, check this out. And I was like, oh, she's just hexed. So I was like, all right, that makes sense. But it was still kind of sad because I was like, where in the world are they, what are they going to do with her having just random abilities? And then I was like, actually, it was just a hex thing. So it's done, answer, over. But it was still cool. Still enjoyed that for sure. And it's a lot of, these past couple episodes have been Molly exploring this side of her life that is now going to be, being a witness. And I enjoyed that. And her, but she's not being dumb. I really like the way they do this character because I think they do this a lot in most TV shows, but the kid's always really, really smart. But I like the way they do it in this, where she's really smart, but it still affects the crap out of her because it's not, she's really smart and it's just a normal life situation. She's really smart, and she kind of knows is some of this stuff I might be able to get through, some not so much because it's supernatural elements. So I really enjoyed that. As I like the way that they kind of utilize her character, and Diana takes her to the bunker in this episode, so I thought that was definitely cool, and she gets to go around and explore, and Alex and Jake, they take off, and so it's her and Ichabod, and that's when things get crazy because she ends up summoning Mr. Stitch, locks down the armory, and I was like, alright, let's see where this episode goes. And it didn't do as much as I kind of expected between the two of them actually inside the base. It was actually more about, the outside world, really. And this monster going around destroying things. So we got our glimpses, on the inside, of course, and how this creature was created because Molly was upset with her mom. Because, oddly enough, her mom was being a little too comforting. And it's I'm not dumb. It's I know things are really, really crazy. And I don't want you to constantly tell me everything's going to be perfect when they certainly won't be. Because we've already gone through some really crazy stuff so far. And I like that. It was just a logical thing where she was feeling upset. And, ultimately it works out by the end. But I thought it was really good, and I think one of the best things about them being locked inside, it of course plays well where we get to learn a little bit about how Molly feels and why this creature actually exists, but it also, I'm assuming, based off of what they did for Alex and Jake, it's the catalyst for a new storyline that they may introduce later in the season going into the next season, but they have, the last person that worked at the armory. She was in her house waiting for some people to come find her, and she lost the person that she was with before, and she died in her house waiting for them to come get her. And I'm I know that was kind of random for this specific episode, but I feel that was leading into something. There's some sort of other organization that doesn't want these people fighting against supernatural beings. Just another evil organization, something that they can utilize as a main villain for the next season, or possibly someone to team up with Dreyfuss so that he utilizes and he tricks them and then gets rid of all of them, and he ends up on top. So it seemed like it was just a cool story where Alex and Jay kind of deal with this, or specifically Alex, where she was kind of freaking out man, she's not as happy as Jake was, and she's kind of flipping out, and it's like, you know, we could die. Like, you know, this is what's going to happen to us. And, you know, as he put it, it's like, that's dark even for you. So I feel like that was actually leading, or it was actually like the beginning of a new storyline that they're going to kind of jump on a little bit later. If not this season, then something in the next season where it's like, remember when we talked about this woman and just these people looking for her or coming to get her? They never came, but there was something to that. And, you know, we don't really know what it is. It's just, poof, some random people, and that was about it. So I'm excited to see what they do with that, because I feel like that's what that was. Like, you don't put something cool, like, there's this mystery where this woman was hiding from people. They never even came and got her. She was so freaked out, she stayed in her house forever until she just died in that chair. Like, that's insane. Like, that's how freaked out she was. That has to be something that they utilize if it caused someone to die in such a crazy way. She just died sitting in her chair. So they've got to utilize that in the future, and I'm sure we'll get to see that. But like I said, that could be next season. It could be, you know, sometime this season. But I feel like this was definitely the beginning of that, and it was just like, here's a little seed. We'll just bring this up and do a little recap, like, remember her, and now they'll go into that story later. But I really love that it introduced that story. You know, like I said, the way they did Molly's character in this episode, which it's always been her character, but they really dived into it because that's why this monster came about. It was just her emotions and trying to work through it and trying to be tough, but feeling that she was, in a sense, being lied to by her mom, who was constantly saying everything's going to be fine. And that's why she was mad, because it's like, she's so smart, she knows it's not all going to be fine, and she doesn't want to keep being told, you know, this is going to be perfect, when she could lose her mother at any minute, or lose Ichabod or Jenny, or just the whole team, because things are really, really crazy. So I love the way they did that. Of course, Dreyfuss meeting Molly was a very interesting sequence, and I feel like that could be how he gets her to his side, because if they have moments like that where he just pops up and it's like, hey, I'm really nice, I'll help you with this, you know, they're dealing with some random monster, he's like, hey Molly, here's the answer. I feel like that's how he'll win, kind of get her over to his side. And considering how smart she is, he can't, like, fake help him. He can't be nice, but not really. Like, he actually has to do really good stuff for that to work. So, excuse me, I'm kind of interested how that dynamic is really going to play out, because she's not stupid. Like, even in this episode, she's talking to him, and then she's kind of like, okay, he's weird. And it was kind of like, do you know anybody that I know? Like, is this, like, what's happening here? And he's like, oh, you know, no, but I know you, and stuff like that. And I thought that was cool, because she started to understand, like, this isn't right, something's off here. So I like how they introduced that element to it, and we have the end of the episode where Dreyfuss is like, you know, I knew that I needed her, but I didn't know how much until I saw her and stuff. And it got a little weird, honestly, the way that he acted out the scene. I thought, like, that's a little weird, because, and of course I know it's not going to go that crazy route, because it's Fox, it's not like HBO. I was like, it's not going to be like that crazy. And they saved it at the end where he's just like, you know, she needs a father, and that's kind of the role that he wants to take. So I thought it was interesting. And like I said, if he continues to have moments like he did in this episode, it seems kind of easy. Like, that would be how he gets Molly on his side. He's nice, he's the guy that shows up. I'm sure at some point she'll realize that he's the bad guy, but there'll be something there where she's kind of conflicted, because it's like, he's done so much good, or, you know, this or that. But I'm glad they introduced that idea of them being together in the future, and him actually protecting her, and almost kidnapping her a little bit, and forcing her to be his daughter. So I can't wait to see how that plays out. Like, so far it's just, things are happening. He's still building up this team. They kind of hint at the woman, like, after he closes down the entire company, the woman that was left behind, Joe kind of looks back at her as if she's going to be like the next prospect to join their sort of evil villain team. So still excited for that, him building up this evil team to combat the heroes, and just where they're headed. But I thought this was a pretty good episode, of course. Would love to know what you guys thought about it, so please comment below, let me know your favorite parts, your least favorite parts, and I definitely want to know how you guys think Dreyfuss plans on getting Molly over to his side, because, like I said, she's not dumb. He actually has to do heroic things in order for her to see him as a good guy. At least that's how I feel, considering how they've done her character so far. But we'll love to know your predictions for how he might at least attempt to make that work. But I'm excited for it. I think it'll be pretty good. But I want to know your predictions on it. And of course, I want to know what you guys thought about this episode in general. So please comment below, let me know. And thanks for watching.